This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of Naqada, the birthplace of ancient Egyptian civilization. In this easy-to-follow exploration, we'll delve into Naqada's origins, tracing its development from a small desert settlement to a powerful center of trade and culture. We'll explore the evolution of its unique pottery, innovative metalworking, elaborate burial practices, and the fascinating origins of Egyptian religion. Get ready to discover how the whispers from the sands of Naqada reveal the story of a civilization forging its identity and laying the foundation for the pharaohs and pyramids to come. Chapter 1. Whispers from the Sands. The Enigma of Naqada's Origins. Naqada. The very name conjures images of a time shrouded in mystery, a place where the seeds of ancient Egyptian civilization were sown. But the origins of this pivotal culture, the precursor to the pharaohs and pyramids, remain an enigma, a puzzle archaeologists continue to piece together from the whispers of artifacts buried beneath the desert sands. One compelling theory suggests that the first Naqadans were migrants from the surrounding desert, drawn to the life-giving waters of the Nile. Whether this was a gradual infiltration or a sudden influx driven by desperation remains a question open to debate. It is possible that a fluctuating climate, perhaps a period of increasing aridity, transformed the once hospitable desert into a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Faced with dwindling resources, these desert dwellers may have sought refuge in the Nile Valley, a verdant oasis offering the promise of sustenance and a new beginning. The Nile Valley, however, presented both opportunities and challenges. The annual flooding of the Nile, while essential for agriculture, was also unpredictable and potentially destructive. The valley was home to a variety of wildlife, some dangerous, like hippos and crocodiles. Adapting to this new environment required ingenuity, resourcefulness, and a deep understanding of the Nile's rhythms. The earliest phase of the Naqada culture, Naqada I, also known as the Amratian, emerged around 3900–3650 BC, a timeline refined by recent radiocarbon dating. This period overlapped with the preceding Badarian culture, and while they shared certain characteristics, distinct differences began to emerge. Both cultures practiced agriculture, cultivating crops like wheat and barley, and raised livestock such as cattle, sheep, and goats. They both created distinctive pottery, though the Badarian pottery was often thinner and decorated with ripple patterns, while Naqada I pottery featured a wider variety of shapes and decorations, including red paint and depictions of boats. Burial practices also offer insights into the evolving culture. Both Badarian and Naqada I peoples buried their dead in simple oval pits, sometimes lined with mats or animal skins. The deceased were often placed in a contracted position, perhaps echoing the posture of a child in the womb, symbolizing rebirth. Grave goods, including food, pottery, and personal ornaments, accompanied the deceased, indicating a belief in an afterlife. While wooden coffins were not unknown in the Badarian period, they became more common in Naqada I, suggesting a growing emphasis on protecting the body for its journey into the next world. For example, in a Badarian tomb excavated at the site of Badari, tomb 3731, a body was found buried in a simple pit with a few pottery vessels. In contrast, a Naqada I tomb at the site of Naqada, tomb 1464, contained a wooden coffin, a greater variety of pottery, and more elaborate personal ornaments. The town of Naqada itself, situated on the west bank of the Nile, played a crucial role in the development of this culture. Located near a vast prehistoric necropolis with thousands of burials spanning the pre-dynastic era, Naqada became a focal point for funerary rituals and beliefs. The town's ancient name, Nut, meaning Gold City, speaks to its strategic location near the gold mines of the Red Sea Mountains. While it's unclear whether the Naqadans themselves engaged in mining, they certainly had access to this precious metal, likely through trade. Gold became a symbol of status and power, adorning the elite in the form of jewelry and other decorative items. This access to gold may have fueled Naqada's growth and influence, transforming it into a significant center of trade and cultural exchange. Nut was also associated with the worship of Seth, a powerful deity whose cult was centered in the nearby town of Ombos. Large, elaborate tombs dedicated to Seth, dating back to around 3500 BC, have been found in the region, showcasing the importance of religious beliefs and practices in Nikyata I society. These tombs, constructed of mud brick, often featured multiple chambers and were adorned with offerings and grave goods, reflecting the reverence accorded to this deity. The Nakhadans of this era were not isolated. They established a vibrant trade network that extended far beyond the Nile Valley. To the south, they traded with Nubia, exchanging Egyptian pottery and other goods for Nubian ivory, animal skins, and perhaps even exotic animals. To the west, they connected with the oases of the Western Desert, acquiring valuable resources like obsidian, a volcanic glass prized for its sharpness, which they used to fashion blades, knives, and other tools. To the east, they established contacts with the cultures of the Eastern Mediterranean, trading for goods like cedar wood from Lebanon, used in the construction of coffins and perhaps in other ritual contexts. The presence of these imported materials in Nikyata tombs testifies to the reach and sophistication of their trade network. The Nakhadans demonstrated remarkable adaptability to their Nile Valley environment. They learned to harness the power of the Nile's floods, developing early irrigation techniques to manage the flow of water and maximize agricultural yields. Their settlements, initially small villages, began to grow in size and complexity, reflecting their increasing control over the environment. They developed specialized crafts, like pottery making and flint knapping, evidence of a growing division of labor and increasing social complexity. Despite the wealth of archaeological data, many questions about Nakhada's origins remain unanswered. Where did these desert migrants come from? What specific climatic changes drove them to the Nile? How did their interactions with neighboring cultures shape their own unique traditions? These are just some of the enigmas that continue to fascinate archaeologists. The discoveries made at Nikyata, however, have been crucial in illuminating the pre-dynastic period, providing a glimpse into the formative stages of ancient Egyptian civilization. The stage is now set for the next chapter, a period of even greater transformation and innovation. Nikyata II. Chapter 2. The Potter's Wheel and the Pharaoh's Scepter. Crafting a Civilization. The air in Nikyata, thick with the scent of river mud and wood smoke, vibrated with the rhythmic whir of the potter's wheel and the clang of the metalworker's hammer. These were the sounds of a civilization being crafted, a society forging its identity from the raw materials of the Nile Valley. From the humble potter's wheel to the nascent symbols of pharaonic power, the people of Nikyata were transforming their world, one carefully shaped pot, one skillfully cast copper tool at a time. The story of this transformation is etched in the very clay of Nakhada's pottery. The earliest vessels, dating to Nikyata I, were simple, functional forms, bowls, jars, and small-necked jugs, fashioned from local clay and fired to a distinctive reddish hue. Often, these pieces were adorned with unassuming geometric patterns, simple lines and zigzags, perhaps the first tentative steps towards a more elaborate artistic language. But as the Nikyata culture evolved, so too did its pottery. The introduction of marl clay, a finer, lighter material, marked a turning point. This new clay allowed potters to create more refined shapes, thinner walls, and more intricate designs. The potter's wheel, a transformative technology, further enhanced their artistry, enabling the creation of perfectly symmetrical forms and more complex vessels. Flinders Petrie, a pioneering archaeologist who excavated at Nikyata in the late 19th century, recognized the significance of these changes. He developed a system called sequence dating, meticulously classifying pottery based on its form, fabric, and decoration. By analyzing the assemblages of pottery found in different graves, Petrie established a relative chronology for the Nikyata culture, dividing it into three distinct phases: Nikyata I, II, and III. His work laid the foundation for our understanding of pre-dynastic Egypt, demonstrating how the evolution of pottery styles could be used to track the passage of time and the development of a culture. The decorated ware of Nikyata II stands as a testament to the burgeoning artistic skill of its creators. The simple geometric patterns of Nikyata I gave way to vibrant scenes of daily life, intricate depictions of boats sailing the Nile, animals roaming the valley, and humans engaged in rituals and ceremonies. The boats, often depicted with cabins and numerous oars, suggest not only their practical use for transport and fishing but also their growing symbolic importance in Nikyota culture. Some vessels even portray what appear to be funerary boats, hinting at the early origins of beliefs about the journey into the afterlife. Animals, both real and mythical, also feature prominently. Desert ibex, flamingos, and crocodiles, all inhabitants of the Nile Valley, appear alongside more fantastical creatures like griffins and serpent-headed panthers. These latter motifs, reminiscent of Mesopotamian art, offer tantalizing clues about cultural exchange and the diffusion of ideas across vast distances. One particular motif, the zigzag pattern, takes on special significance. Believed to represent water, it foreshadows the hieroglyphic symbol for water that would later become a cornerstone of Egyptian writing. The shift from round-bottomed to flat-bottomed pottery in Nikyota II also reflects technological innovation, allowing vessels to stand upright without support. While the potter's wheel shaped the artistic expression of Nikyota, the metalworker's forge forged its technological advancement. The discovery of copper, a malleable and durable material, ushered in a new era. Initially used for small ornaments and tools, copper quickly became essential for creating more sophisticated implements. Among the most remarkable of these were the copper harpoons found at sites like Telephone El Farka and Telephone El Murra. These finely crafted tools, with their barbed points and sturdy shafts, were not merely instruments of hunting, they were symbols of prowess and status. Hunting the formidable hippopotamus, a creature both revered and feared, was a dangerous undertaking, and the successful hunter likely held a position of prestige within the community. The control of copper resources and the specialized skills required to work with the metal likely contributed to the emergence of social hierarchies, with those who possessed these resources and skills wielding greater influence. Copper was not limited to harpoons. A variety of other copper objects have been unearthed, including axes, adzes, daggers, knives, spearheads, fishhooks, needles, finger rings, and various small tools. The techniques of copper casting and forging, developed and refined over time, allowed for the creation of increasingly complex and specialized items. Gold and silver, even rarer and more precious, were also used, primarily for jewelry, tiny beads, and decorative sheathing on other materials. The increasing prevalence of these metals in Nikyota graves speaks to the growing wealth and stratification of society. Knives, ubiquitous tools in any culture, also underwent a significant transformation in Nikyota. Simple flint blades, once the standard, were gradually replaced by more elaborate knives with intricately carved ivory handles. These handles were not mere utilitarian additions, they were canvases for artistic expression, miniature masterpieces depicting scenes of worship, hunting expeditions, and the rituals of daily life. One knife handle might show a procession of humans bearing offerings to a deity, another a hunter grappling with a wild animal, yet another a group of people engaged in agricultural labor. These intricate carvings offer intimate glimpses into Nakyota's social and religious practices, revealing the values, beliefs, and concerns of its people. The twisted knife tradition, a distinctive style of knife making that originated in Lower Egypt, provides a fascinating example of cultural diffusion. These knives, with their characteristic twisted handles, began to appear in Upper Egypt during Nikyota II, demonstrating the movement of ideas and technologies within the region. Beyond pottery and metallurgy, the people of Nikyota were masters of a variety of other crafts. Small figurines, carved from stone, ivory, bone, and clay, were ubiquitous. Some were simple, almost abstract forms, while others were meticulously crafted representations of humans and animals. These figurines likely served multiple purposes, acting as children's toys, protective amulets, ritual objects, or even fertility idols. The discovery of breweries at sites like Telephone El Farka reveals another aspect of Nikyota life. One brewery, in particular, stands out, featuring 13 consecutive vats, a testament to the scale and sophistication of beer production. The beer-making process, a carefully orchestrated sequence of steps, involved malting grain, creating a porridge-like mixture, and then sieving the liquid to extract the beer. This beverage likely played an important role in both everyday life and ceremonial occasions. The architecture of Nikyota also reflects its growing complexity. At Telephone El Farca, large buildings, some fortified with thick mud brick walls, suggest the need for both storage and defense. These structures may have served as warehouses for agricultural surpluses or as fortified residences for the emerging elite. The presence of imported goods from distant lands, like obsidian from Ethiopia and cedar wood from Lebanon, provides further evidence of Nakhada's extensive trade networks. This trade, likely controlled by a powerful elite, would have contributed to the accumulation of wealth and the further stratification of society. Perhaps the most profound cultural shift in Nakhada was the emergence of writing. In the later phases of Nakhada II and into Nakhada III, simple pictograms, the earliest form of Egyptian writing, began to appear on pottery vessels, clay ceilings, and other objects. These stylized images of animals, people, and objects represented not just words but also concepts and ideas. They documented trade transactions, administrative records, and perhaps even religious beliefs, suggesting the development of more complex economic, political, and religious systems. The increasing use of writing, initially confined to an elite few, would have played a crucial role in consolidating power and establishing social hierarchies. The advancements in pottery, metallurgy, and other crafts in Nakhada were not isolated events. They were interconnected threads in the tapestry of a civilization being woven. The transition from simple, utilitarian objects to more elaborate, specialized goods reflects a broader societal transformation. The emergence of specialized labor, the accumulation of wealth, the development of trade networks, and the rise of powerful elites, all were intertwined with the advancements in material culture. These innovations, born from the ingenuity and artistry of the Nakhadan people, laid the foundation for the rise of a unified Egyptian state, setting the stage for the pharaohs, pyramids, and the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt. And as the sun set over the Nile Valley, casting long shadows across the workshops and kilns of Nakhada, the whispers from the sands hinted at another transformative development, one that would further shape the destiny of this remarkable culture: the elaborate burial practices that would become a hallmark of ancient Egypt. Chapter 3. Whispers from the Sands: Life, Death, and Social Hierarchy in Nakhada. The sands of Nakhada whisper tales not only of life but also of death, revealing the ancient Egyptians' profound preoccupation with the afterlife and the intricate social hierarchies that shaped their world. The tombs, evolving from simple desert pits to elaborate chambers, serve as poignant narratives of their beliefs, status, and aspirations for a life beyond the mortal realm. In Nakhada I, the journey into the afterlife began in an oval pit, a simple hollow scooped from the desert sand. Bodies, often wrapped in goatskin, were placed within, sometimes in a squatting position, as if poised for rebirth. These early burials, though modest, were not devoid of sentiment. Pottery vessels, perhaps containing food or drink for the deceased's journey, and personal ornaments, like beads or simple amulets, adorned the bodies, hinting at a belief in a continued existence beyond death. These were not just burials, they were acts of remembrance, expressions of hope for a life beyond the earthly realm. As Nakhada society developed, so too did its burial practices. In Nakhada II, rectangular graves began to appear, their walls lined with masonry or wood, creating more permanent and protective spaces for the deceased. The grave goods became richer and more varied, reflecting an increasingly complex understanding of the afterlife and the growing social stratification of Nakhada society. Elaborate cosmetic palettes, used in life to prepare the body for presentation, were now included in burials, suggesting a desire to maintain appearances even in death. Flint knives, meticulously crafted with ripple-flaked blades and sometimes adorned with intricately carved ivory handles, became status symbols, accompanying the elite in their tombs. The presence of imported goods, such as obsidian blades from Ethiopia or cedar wood from Lebanon, further underscored the social standing of the deceased, signifying access to valuable trade networks. The transition to Nakhada III, the proto-dynastic period, witnessed the emergence of truly elaborate tombs, reflecting the growing power and wealth of the ruling elite. Large, multi-chambered mastabas, with niched facades echoing the architecture of palaces, became the final resting places for the highest-ranking members of society. These tombs were not merely burial chambers, they were statements of power, declarations of status intended to endure for eternity. The sheer quantity and quality of grave goods interred with these individuals were staggering. Intricately carved ivory objects, copper tools and weapons, stone pallets shaped like animals or adorned with complex scenes, and jewelry crafted from gold, turquoise, garnet, and malachite filled the chambers, transforming them into miniature treasuries. The presence of ritually shattered pottery in some tombs suggests specific funerary practices, perhaps a symbolic act of releasing the spirit of the deceased or providing vessels for their use in the afterlife. The transition from simple oval pits to elaborate mastabas also signifies a shift from a chiefdom to a state style of civilization, with a more centralized authority and a greater concentration of wealth. This shift is mirrored in the increasing disparity in grave goods between elite and commoner burials, a stark visual representation of the growing social divide. The royal tomb at Nakyata stands as a powerful example of this growing social stratification. This large mastaba, with its 16 small chambers and 5 larger chambers, including a central burial chamber, was clearly intended for a person of immense importance. The tomb's layout, with its multiple chambers and niched facade, reflects the growing architectural sophistication of the period. Inside, a wealth of artifacts lay waiting to be discovered: beads of faience, ivory, and semi-precious stones, amulets in a variety of forms, rings and bracelets of shell and ivory, a profusion of ceramic and stone vessels, finely crafted ivory and copper objects, elaborate stone palettes, and a single, exquisite gold bead, likely once part of a necklace composed entirely of such precious beads. The presence of small bone labels inscribed with numbers, possibly relating to the tomb's contents, and the name of Neithahotep, a prominent female figure in early Egyptian history, suggested a connection to the royal court. 2 labels even depict necklaces, further hinting at the tomb's original riches. However, the tomb had been robbed in antiquity, leaving many questions unanswered. The identity of the tomb's occupant remains a subject of scholarly debate. While the presence of Neithotep's name on some objects suggests she may have been interred there, others believe the tomb belonged to a high-ranking official named Rekhet, whose name also appears on several artifacts within. The tomb also contained objects inscribed with the names of Aha, Mary Iti, Narmer, and Het, suggesting a complex network of relationships within the ruling elite. The possibility of the tomb belonging to a provincial governor, rather than a royal family member, further highlights the growing importance of regional power structures. The increasing complexity of tomb structures and the growing quantity and richness of grave goods across the Nakyata periods reveal a changing understanding of the afterlife. The inclusion of food, figurines, personal ornaments, tools, and weapons suggests a belief in a continued existence beyond death, a realm where the deceased would need sustenance, companionship, and the tools of their earthly trade. The inclusion of cooking pots with remnants of food, like meat stew with honey, speaks to a practical concern for the deceased's sustenance. Cosmetic palettes, essential for personal grooming in life, were also included in burials, suggesting a desire to maintain appearances and perhaps even social status in the afterlife. The tombs of Nakyata, therefore, are not simply repositories for the dead. They are windows into a living culture, offering intimate glimpses into the lives, beliefs, and social structures of a civilization on the cusp of greatness. They reveal a deep fascination with the afterlife, a growing social hierarchy reflected in the disparity of burial practices, and the emergence of artistic and religious traditions that would shape the course of ancient Egyptian civilization. These whispers from the sands, echoing across millennia, continue to captivate and inform, enriching our understanding of a pivotal period in human history. Chapter 4. The Gods Awaken, Tracing the Roots of Egyptian Religion. The sands of Nakyata whisper not only of life and death, but also of the stirrings of religious belief. Within the tombs, amongst the artifacts, and woven into the very landscape of this ancient civilization, we can trace the roots of Egyptian religion, the awakening of gods and goddesses who would shape the spiritual landscape of pharaonic Egypt for millennia. Nakyata I, Whispers of Belief. In the early days of Nakyata, during the period known as Nakyata I, circa 3900–3650 BC, the spiritual world was populated by a diverse array of local deities, often represented in animal form. Figurines crafted from clay, bone, and ivory reveal a menagerie of sacred creatures: powerful bulls, graceful hippopotami, cunning crocodiles, protective falcons, and nurturing cows. These animals, integral to the Nile Valley ecosystem, held symbolic meaning for the Naqadans, representing the forces of nature, the cycles of life and death, and the promise of sustenance. The bull, for instance, might symbolize strength and fertility, while the hippopotamus, a creature both revered and feared, could embody both creation and destruction. The falcon, soaring high above the valley, may have represented a connection to the heavens, while the cow, provider of milk and sustenance, could symbolize nurturing and abundance. The careful arrangement of grave goods, the inclusion of food and drink, and the occasional use of wooden coffins suggest a growing belief in a continued existence beyond death, a realm where the deceased would need sustenance, comfort, and protection. Some scholars believe these early practices may even reflect a form of ancestor worship, with the figurines representing deceased relatives or clan ancestors who would guide and protect their descendants in the afterlife. These local animal deities, each associated with a particular clan or village, may have been the precursors to the nome system, which divided ancient Egypt into administrative regions, each with its own totemic animal. The amulets found in Nikyata I graves, often shaped like animals or incorporating animal motifs, further reinforce the importance of these creatures in the spiritual landscape. These amulets, crafted from materials like bone, ivory, and faience, likely served a protective or religious function, warding off evil, promoting fertility, or ensuring good fortune. Nikyata II, the gods take shape. As Nikyata society evolved into the Nikyata II period, circa 3650–3300 BC, so too did its religious beliefs. The familiar figures of Hathor, Ra, and Horus, central deities in later Egyptian religion, begin to emerge from the mists of prehistory. Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, and motherhood, appears in the form of a cow or a woman with cow horns, symbolizing nurturing and fertility. Ra, the sun god, is represented by the solar disk, embodying the life-giving power of the sun. Horus, the falcon god, associated with kingship and protection, is depicted as a falcon or a falcon-headed man. These deities, though still developing their distinct identities, were becoming increasingly prominent in Nikyata II iconography, appearing on pottery, cosmetic palettes, and other artifacts. Their presence suggests a growing emphasis on cosmic order, the cycles of nature, and the power of divine forces. Burial rituals in Nikyata II became more elaborate, reflecting a deeper understanding of the afterlife and a greater emphasis on preparing the deceased for their journey. Rectangular graves, lined with masonry or wood, replaced the simple oval pits of Nikyata I. Decorated wooden coffins became more common, providing greater protection for the body and showcasing the artistry of the Naqadan craftsmen. The range of grave goods expanded, including not only pottery and personal ornaments but also tools, weapons, and even furniture, suggesting a belief that the deceased would continue to engage in the activities of their earthly lives in the afterlife. Cosmetic palettes, often crafted in the shape of animals like fish, birds, and turtles, took on ritual significance, connecting the living and the dead through the act of adornment. These palettes, used to grind and mix pigments for cosmetics, may have been seen as magical tools, enhancing beauty and promoting transformation. The hunter's palette, a remarkable example from this period, depicts scenes of hunting and ritual combat, suggesting that cosmetic palettes may also have been associated with royal power and the triumph of humans over the forces of chaos. The adoption of cylindrical seals from Mesopotamia, evident in Nikyata II, suggests not only trade connections but also the potential exchange of religious ideas. These seals, used to mark ownership and authenticate documents, often featured Mesopotamian motifs like griffins and serpent-headed panthers, suggesting a degree of cultural exchange and the possible adoption of foreign deities or religious concepts. This blending of local beliefs with Mesopotamian influences may have contributed to the richness and complexity of Naqada's religious landscape. The Hierakonpolis painted tomb, a glimpse into the afterlife. The painted tomb at Hierakonpolis, also known as Tomb 100, offers a vivid glimpse into the religious beliefs and practices of Nikyata II. This large, elaborately decorated tomb, likely belonging to a local ruler, showcases the growing importance of ritual and symbolism in Nikyota society. The painted walls, the earliest known example of such decoration in Egypt, depict a vibrant world of boats, animals, and humans engaged in ritualistic activities. The boats, depicted in detail with cabins, oars, and standards, suggest their symbolic role in the journey to the afterlife. Some boats carry figures engaged in what appear to be ritual processions, while others are shown hunting hippopotami and crocodiles, powerful creatures associated with both danger and regeneration. These scenes may represent early forms of religious ceremonies or narratives, depicting the deceased's journey to the otherworld or their triumph over the forces of chaos. Other scenes in the tomb depict humans engaged in a variety of activities, including hunting, fishing, and combat. One scene shows a figure holding 3 captives tied by a rope, while another depicts a figure holding a captive upside down, possibly about to be struck with a stick. These scenes, though open to interpretation, may represent ritual combat, the subjugation of enemies, or symbolic hunts in the spirit realm. The presence of both animal and human figures in these scenes suggests a complex interplay between the natural world, human society, and the divine. The tomb's division into a burial chamber and an offering space reflects evolving funerary practices. The burial chamber, the final resting place for the deceased, was designed to protect the body and provide a space for the soul to reside. The offering space, located adjacent to the burial chamber, served as a place for family and priests to present offerings of food, drink, and other goods to sustain the deceased in the afterlife. This division of space foreshadows the layout of later Egyptian tombs and temples, demonstrating the continuity of certain architectural and ritual practices across time. Nikyota III, the King and the Gods. In Nikyota III, circa 3300–2900 BC, the proto-dynastic period, the connection between religion and kingship becomes increasingly apparent. The sarek, a rectangular symbol used to enclose the king's name, often features the falcon god Horus perched atop the frame. This powerful symbol suggests a link between the ruler and divine authority, with the king seen as the earthly embodiment of Horus, the god of kingship and protection. The Narmer palette, a key artifact from this period, provides a striking example of this connection. This elaborately carved ceremonial palette depicts King Narmer wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt, signifying his role as a unifier of the two lands. One side of the palette shows Narmer, wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, about to strike a captive enemy. The other side depicts Narmer, wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, inspecting decapitated enemies. These scenes, though violent, likely represent symbolic victories over chaos and the establishment of order. The presence of Horus, depicted as a falcon, further emphasizes the king's divine mandate. Royal cemeteries, like the one at Abydos, become increasingly elaborate, reflecting the growing power and status of the kings. These cemeteries served not only as burial places for the royal family but also as centers of religious activity. Rituals and ceremonies performed in these cemeteries likely reinforced the king's divine status and ensured his safe passage into the afterlife. Funerary architecture also takes on greater significance in Nikyota III. The minor step pyramid at Nikyota, likely built by King Huni of the Third Dynasty, though later than the Nikyota period proper, demonstrates the continuity of certain religious practices and the growing importance of monumental architecture in expressing religious beliefs. This pyramid, a precursor to the Grand Pyramids of the Old Kingdom, represents the king's connection to the heavens and his aspiration for eternal life. The legacy of Nikyota. The religious landscape of Nikyota was a dynamic one, evolving over time as the society itself became more complex. From local animal deities to the emergence of recognizable Egyptian gods and goddesses, from simple burial rituals to elaborate tomb decoration and monumental architecture, Nakhada's religious practices laid the foundation for the rich and complex religious system that would characterize pharaonic Egypt. The influence of external factors, such as trade and cultural exchange with Mesopotamia, is evident in certain motifs and practices, like the use of cylindrical seals and the appearance of Mesopotamian-inspired animal figures. However, the Nakhadans adapted and integrated these foreign influences into their own unique religious system, creating a vibrant blend of local and imported traditions. The legacy of Nakhada's religious traditions is profound. The deities, rituals, and symbols that emerged during this formative period would continue to shape Egyptian religion for millennia. The connection between kingship and divinity, the emphasis on the afterlife, and the importance of ritual and symbolism, all have their roots in the sands of Naqada. The whispers from the sands, echoing across time, reveal the awakening of the gods and the birth of a religious system that would captivate and inspire for generations to come. Chapter 5. Forging a Kingdom, Power Struggles and the Rise of Narmer in Naqada III. The Nile Valley in Naqada III, circa 3300–2900 BC, a period also known as Dynasty 0 or the Proto-Dynastic period, was a crucible of change. The whispers of earlier eras transformed into a roar of political upheaval, as powerful chiefdoms clashed, alliances shifted like desert sands, and the seeds of a unified Egypt were sown. This wasn't a peaceful transition, it was a time of intense power struggles, military conflicts, and the strategic consolidation of authority, culminating in the rise of a king who would cast a long shadow over the land, Narmer. Upper Egypt, a land divided, was a patchwork of competing chiefdoms, each vying for dominance. Hierakonpolis, Naqada, and Thinis emerged as major power centers, their influence radiating outwards like ripples in the Nile. Archaeological evidence paints a vivid picture of this era of conflict. At Hierakonpolis, a massive mud brick wall, dating to the latter half of Naqada II, encircled part of the town, a clear indication of the need for defense. A similar wall enclosed Naqada, suggesting that warfare and territorial disputes were common occurrences. Within these fortified settlements, the elite lived in larger, more elaborate houses, a stark contrast to the smaller dwellings of the commoners, reflecting the growing social stratification. The artwork on knife handles from Naqada II offers a glimpse into the lives and perhaps even the identities of these early rulers. Intricate carvings depict scenes of warfare, with warriors brandishing weapons and engaging in combat. Other handles portray individuals in positions of authority, perhaps chiefs or priests, adorned with symbols of power. These miniature masterpieces not only showcase the artistic skill of the Naqadans but also provide valuable clues about their social and political organization. The knives themselves, with their ripple-flaked flint blades and often elaborate ivory handles, were not merely tools, they were symbols of status and authority, wielded by the elite and buried with them in their tombs. Elite burials from this period are replete with weapons and military equipment, further highlighting the importance of warfare. Copper harpoons, originally designed for hunting, could also be used as formidable weapons in close combat. Flint knives, some with intricately carved handles depicting scenes of warfare, were both practical tools and symbolic objects. Mace heads, crafted from various stones and sometimes decorated with intricate carvings, were particularly potent weapons, capable of inflicting devastating blows. The Narmer palette stands as a pivotal artifact in understanding the unification process. This ceremonial palette, discovered at Hierakonpolis, depicts King Narmer in scenes of both conquest and ritual. On one side, Narmer, wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, is shown grasping a captive by the hair, about to deliver a fatal blow. On the other side, Narmer, now wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, inspects decapitated enemies. These graphic depictions, though potentially symbolic, demonstrate Narmer's military prowess and his dominion over both Upper and Lower Egypt. The palette also includes images of Horus, the falcon god, further solidifying the connection between kingship and divine authority. The intertwined serpopods, mythical creatures with long necks, may represent the unification of the two lands, while the bull, a symbol of strength and fertility, could represent Narmer's power and virility. The Narmer palette, therefore, is not merely a work of art. It is a powerful statement of royal authority and a testament to the unification of Egypt under Narmer's rule. However, the exact sequence of events leading to unification and the roles of other rulers remain subjects of scholarly debate. Some scholars believe that Narmer was the sole architect of unification, while others suggest that he built upon the foundations laid by earlier rulers like Scorpion II. The Scorpion macehead, for example, depicts a king, possibly Scorpion II, participating in rituals and potentially engaging in military activities, suggesting that he may have played a significant role in the unification process. The relationship between Narmer and Scorpion II, and the extent of their respective territories, are still being investigated. The battlefield palette, another artifact from this period, depicts a scene of warfare, possibly representing the subjugation of Lower Egypt by the forces of Upper Egypt. This palette, though fragmented, provides further evidence of the military conflicts that characterized Nikyata III. The emergence of a unified kingship under Narmer was not just a political achievement, it was a cultural and religious transformation. Royal iconography, a visual language of power, began to develop. The sarek, a rectangular frame enclosing the king's name, became a standard symbol of royal authority. The association of the pharaoh with Horus, the falcon god, further solidified the king's divine status. Royal cemeteries, like the one at Abydos, became elaborate expressions of royal power and religious belief. The tombs of the early kings, though not as grand as the later pyramids, were substantial structures filled with rich grave goods, reflecting the growing wealth and status of the pharaohs. The Nikyata label, found in the tomb of Queen Neithahotep at Nikyata, offers a glimpse into the religious practices of this period. While some scholars interpret the label as depicting a visit to a shrine dedicated to the goddesses of Upper and Lower Egypt, others believe it represents the Nebti name of King Aha, Neithotep's son. This alternative interpretation suggests that the label may be an early example of the Nebti name, a royal title that would become a standard part of the pharaoh's titulary in later periods. The debate surrounding the Nikyata label highlights the complexities of interpreting early Egyptian writing and the challenges of reconstructing the religious and political landscape of Nikyata III. The development of writing itself was intricately linked to the consolidation of power and the administration of a unified kingdom. The earliest hieroglyphs, simple pictograms representing objects and concepts, began to appear on pottery, labels, and other artifacts. These early inscriptions documented trade transactions, administrative records, and perhaps even religious beliefs, suggesting the emergence of more complex economic, political, and religious systems. The ability to record and communicate information through writing would have been a powerful tool for the emerging elite, enabling them to control resources, manage labor, and assert their authority. Nikyata III was a pivotal era in Egyptian history, a time of profound change that laid the foundation for the pharaonic civilization that would follow. The rise of powerful rulers, the unification of Upper Egypt, and the development of royal iconography, religious practices, and writing all contributed to the emergence of a unified state, setting the stage for one of the world's most enduring civilizations. The shadows cast by these early kings, especially Narmer, stretched far beyond their own time, shaping the course of Egyptian history for centuries to come. Their legacy is etched not only in the artifacts and monuments they left behind but also in the very fabric of Egyptian culture and identity. Naqada's transformation from scattered desert communities to a unified kingdom under Narmer reveals the complex interplay of environmental pressures, technological innovation, and socio-political dynamics that shaped early Egyptian civilization. From simple pottery and copper tools to elaborate tombs and the first hieroglyphs, Naqada's story highlights the human capacity for adaptation, artistry, and the creation of complex social structures. These findings illuminate the development of early states and the role of material culture, religious beliefs, and power struggles in shaping civilizations. Where will these whispers from the sands lead us next? Share your thoughts and questions below. Like, subscribe, and suggest topics for future explorations. Keep questioning, keep learning. The past holds endless wonders waiting to be uncovered.